Right. So getting back to it, okay, you were saying that you were a little bit of right rule breaker, but you were smart enough to be getting everything done.
Right.
So what was it that was the main focus at the time? Like what was it that was keeping you from like focusing on like giving, or was it just, natural? It was like it's just a
Nah,
shame.
I think if I'm being honest, I think that there was like a balance, right? Like I come from like a really strict, classic immigrant parent upbringing where education is the focus. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I am a first generation American. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, so there was definitely this kind of like balance of in terms of like, education is first and foremost, morality, knowing right from wrong, that which you learn can't be taken away from you. Um, these really kind of foundational, uh, you know, I guess like tenets, right? These kind of like foundational principles, you know what I'm saying? That are like, yo, like get your education, nobody can steal that, can take that away from you. Um, you know, don't do what you see people in the streets doing, do what you're being taught at home, you know what I'm saying? That
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But, you know, balanced, counteracted and balanced by the fact that, I am a first generation American. My brother and I are largely like our only support system in terms of figuring it out, right? Like all that shit you learn at home is great, you know what I'm saying? And everything that you're instilled with, yeah, wonderful. Those are, those inform like who you are when you step outside. But fuck, the experiences that you have when you fucking step outside inform who you are almost, to a greater degree, if not
Yes,
absolutely to a greater degree, you know what I'm saying? And so,
absolutely.
you know, we're New Yorkers, right? Like Flacco, you get it. You know what I'm saying? Like we New Yorkers, you know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like we got a hustler spirit, you know what I'm saying? And so like the hustle and the temptation and everything are around you at the same time, right? Like I grew up in on the border of Elmhurst and Corona, Queens at the height of the crack era. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mm.
remember
Hmm.
I saw Hand in Hands, as a shorty. So along with all this like fucking beautiful and impactful like community based education that I'm receiving from the things that my family is involved in and are toiling at and attempting to lift not just ourselves but other people up with us. I'm seeing the streets, you know what I mean? Like I'm seeing, I'm seeing the hustle, I'm seeing the grind, I'm seeing like dope heads, I'm fucking stepping on crack vials as a shorty, you know what I'm saying? So there was definitely what kept me kind of just on the fucking straight, so as kids, like my brother and I dabbled in things, right? Like, I won't get into what, right? You know what I'm saying? But we dabbled in things, right? We got our hands dirty in some things, you know what I'm saying? Um, but the thing or the rudder, right, that kept us, that kept me from fucking, at one time, I'll say it like this, right? At one time in my life, I thought I'd make a great porn star. But like, what would I look like being a fucking porn star when I got a family, like a loving family who fucking loves me and brought me up right? You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? Like, like like that's the best way for me to put it. It's like, yo, the family keeps you grounded, right? So like that morality and the things that were instilled in me, kept me from becoming like a devious motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? But like, you know. I know devious motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Like I broke bread with devious motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I was
I
about to
mean,
defend the porn industry. One of these days, porn industry is gonna get its respect. We'll
it's
just
gonna get its respect,
we'll
man.
just
Yo,
we'll
man, they
just
work
we'll
hard.
just treat them we'll just treat them like the service givers that they are.
Look,
You
give
know
it
what I mean?
they
Like,
are,
yo,
you know what I'm saying?
I think
Yeah,
it's
they
you know what I'm
happening.
provide
saying? Like,
educational.
I mean, if you
it's
want,
They
it's
provide
we're getting closer and closer, I think, to like
mm.
to a
Because
world
if you
where
like
like
think about it
it's
now, right? If you're
normalized.
like mad young, like
yeah,
it's just
Yeah,
normal to have a homie or 8 that have
yeah,
OnlyFans right now. So it's really just like old people that be gonna be there. But soon enough, the corporate tycoon is, and it's not even, it might not even be a girl. It'll be some dude, and we're gonna find out he was doing OnlyFans back in the day, and it's gonna just be like too many people have that same skeleton in their closet that it's whatever. Who cares?
yeah,
no big
yeah,
deal.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, listen,
But it was a big deal. It was a big fucking deal back when you were pretty much probably considering it, right? Like,
no, 100%. Nah, nigga, I never like seriously considered it. I just use it to illustrate like a fucking point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm,
He's
you know what I'm
like,
saying? Like, I'm just,
he's like,
I,
this
just,
I
is the
was
dirt I
I
did
was thinking
not
about
do.
I was definitely thinking about it. Like I was
nah, no,
so
fam.
that's why I was
Listen,
like
listen.
I'm
Listen,
believing it. Like
if opportunities had presented themselves, who the fuck knows? You know what I'm saying? But
that's what I'm
like,
saying.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the family. I was trying to make the point that like family and kind of like my upbringing kept me
Yeah,
from pursuits that might have otherwise been like really detrimental. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Um. Uh. You know. But yeah, man. So like, you know, it was an you know, we talk about normalizing the porn industry. Just on that note for a second, right? Like, let's like, who would have thunk? You know, I was 14 the first time I smoked weed, right? Who would have thunk that we'd live in a fucking, like at 14, I never thought I'd live in a fucking world where
Nah.
I could fucking walk down the street
And
casually. You know
yeah,
what
I've been talking about that a lot lately. Like honestly, we're privileged in the fact that we got to live through so much. Like I never thought that I'd see a black president in America. I never
I'm
thought that that I'd live to see a black president in America, or that
right,
I'd live to see the day that we could smoke weed freely and not be arrested for it. Like I never
right,
thought that I'd live to see these days. So
yeah,
the fact that like I got to live through so many like monumental moments is like, yo, this is crazy. Uh,
100%.
it's a
Yeah.
hell of a
100%.
life.
It, nah, it's wild stuff. Like we're on cam and fully
Or
capable of
we went from
monetizing this
having
stream, right? Like this is all monetizable because in both our respective locations it's legal like that, and that's the rules. If it's legal like that in your home, you're allowed to monetize it. That's how fucking
yeah, yeah.
far it's come.
Dumb
Yo,
far, bro.
listen, we went from watching TV at our in our homes on big boxy ass
Boxes,
TVs,
right.
bro. Boxes, all right, with these goofy ass big ass TVs, watching Zach Morris with his goofy ass big ass fucking cell phone, right? To now us just being like streaming a whole fucking network on essentially phones if we wanted to, right? Like
Basically, I'm
that's
on my
not the
phone
way
right
that
now.
that's not the way that we're really running it, right? Like that's not the way that the play is really being ran all the way, right? Like Dub network, like everything is backed up on hard drives and shit like that, you know? So like it's not like we're doing it on a shoestring budget. It really is. But if we wanted to, we could. And you know what?
You
It's
could,
also
right,
legit. You know what I mean? Like
right.
because phones do everything. It's crazy. We went from watching Zach Morris have a boxy ass fucking brick that did nothing other than make a phone call. I imagine very slowly and horribly sounding, to
Mm.
like being
Shit.
able to stream whole ass shows
Yeah,
and
no.
do
Facts.
all sorts of
Like,
things, film movies
but just like on a
with a phone.
tangential point, right? A lot of people used to sit there and listen. Like, I have this ongoing conversation sometimes about like why attention spans aren't what they used to be. Like, people don't
Right.
spend as much time with albums because there was no 3 hour Marvel movies and there was no fucking 80-hour video games back in the
Yeah,
80s. Like, I would
Right.
argue there's competing entertainment that actually captures focus. Because listen, like, you can tell me all you want about attention spans until you watch those same ADD motherfuckers talk about Marvel, and it's over. That'll be a 5 hour debate with minutia. Like, we're talking, they'll go frame by frame on that bitch, and it makes no sense if
Yeah.
the world has no attention spans. but arguably 80s
You know,
movies are good, but they're not like Marvel.
Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
just
nah.
we live in a different era. We
You
definitely
know,
live in a different era.
a classic '80s movie is like 72 minutes long.
Facts,
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That's
facts,
something. You know,
facts.
that's some shit. That's some shit that
Back
like
to
you
the
know, like I'm
Future.
big
Back
on
to the Future was like run time of like 72
like
minutes
90.
and shit.
Yeah, like you know what
You
I'm
know,
saying?
like
It's like
93 minutes at max.
93
You know,
minutes, bro. 93 minutes.
95
Yes.
minutes, 98
You know
minutes.
what I'm
Like
saying?
once you got
And I
into
know
the
this shit.
hundreds, it was like, whoa,
Yo,
what?
nigga.
We're talking
Yo.
about like the Godfather movies and shit. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
that's
Godfather had
200-minute
an
running
intermission.
time and shit. You
Yo,
know?
Godfather and fucking
Yo,
Scarface
them
had
videos
intermission.
had intermissions, bro. They had
Dog, you know what I'm
intermissions
saying? So like, yo, you
between
know,
between you ejecting the videotape. Yo, let me
dog.
tell you something though. This is all awesome shit, yo. Because it's like, yo, I got to live through all this ill shit.
Yeah.
So it's like
Nah, that's
I'm not
boss.
left behind with none of it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I
No.
kept on evolving as things changed, as I went from a Walkman to a Discman, you know what I mean?
Right.
As I went
Right.
from a Discman to MP3 player, as I went from an
Right.
MP3 player
To your phone.
to my phone.
To your
With
phone.
Spotify
Word.
or Apple Music for you, I
Word.
bet. I don't know what
With the
yours.
apps.
Word.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
man. So it's interesting, yo.
So I
Cause
gotta.
like I'll
Mm-hmm.
fucking yeah,
No,
my
go
fault,
ahead.
Steve. It's
You were
good.
gonna say something, and I cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I'm cognizant of these fucking time differences, and I'm cognizant of these distinctions because, like, I've, I've made it a point to show my kids certain things that I feel were kind of like impactful and just kind of like necessary. You know what I'm saying? Even like, just in general from like my childhood. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'll show. I've shown them like 16 Candles or Weird Science or like these
How do
classics
they
like.
react to it?
Yo, they love them shits, man. They love them shits.
Word.
These,
That's dope.
Breakfast Club. You know what I'm saying? But it's also interesting, right? Like to bring that point up. Like, my parents would take me to see, would take my brother, would take us, I should say, to see, big time fucking movies too when we were young. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like in '89, we saw Do the Right Thing. You know what I'm saying? So I showed my
Mm-hmm.
kids Do the Right Thing.
Mm.
Empire of the Sun, The Last Emperor. Showed my
Mm-hmm.
kids all these movies, you know what I'm saying? Uh, you know,
Terminator 2.
you know. So anything that kind of like, feels nostalgic, I've also shown to my kids because I just kind of want them to have like, again, perspective and kind of like, insight into who I am as a fucking person. You know what I'm saying? And like I think things like that convey pieces of you that otherwise can't be expressed. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I can't, I'll never be able to really have, and this is tangential as well, but like, and this delves into like a parenting thing, but like, I'll never be able to have as amazing, and I have an amazing relationship with my teenage daughter. I'll never be able to have like as amazing as a relationship as to teach her some of the lessons that like she could learn from a movie like 16 Candles.
Or,
You know what I'm saying? Like heartbreak and fucking like, being after somebody who's not interested in you and like
yeah.
your merits and your worth. You know what I'm saying? And your
Yeah,
value and
yeah,
things like, you
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
all
no,
like
absolutely.
like conversations to that point, to those points would ultimately like, from my perspective, ultimately like going one ear and out the other, but like to show a teenage child like, yo, like, you see, this is the kind of shit that I was watching when I was at this exact stage in your life, that you are in your life,
Right.
you know what I mean? So like
Right.
I identify, I know in a
Now
more
that's
kind of
dope.
like, you know,
That's super
um,
dope.
Yeah, no, that makes
yeah,
sense.
just
Stills.
just my fault.
Because I think we all do that, right? Like all human beings. Like I laugh because like my father used to try to get me to watch like his shit. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
he used to
Oh, I
watch,
watched
and
all
like
of my
yeah,
dad's shit. It was
I'd be
whole
like,
growing
I'd
up.
be like, no, I'm not doing that. Like it's black and white TV, Dad. Give me some color. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Um,
you fucking privilege. That's privilege. That's
yo,
smacks and reeks of
no,
fucking privilege, you
absolutely,
fucking bastard.
absolutely. What my fuck? Yo, I ended up watching his shit, right? But like, um, uh, I just think it's funny because we all have that in us, right? Of like that
Right.
desire of
Mm.
like, yo, next generation. Look at what I was into when I was your
Yeah.
age, you know?
Yeah.
But like to
Yeah.
be smart enough to do it, um, you know, in ways like that, you know, to like realize that like, yo, you'll be able to like impart life lessons
Right.
um that are probably like pivotal at certain points in her life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
No,
Yeah.
it's
but
like
just
having a conversation that you don't even need to
yeah,
have,
but that's
you
it. But
know?
just the idea
Mhm.
of also like, yo, like maybe you're not the right guy to be talking romance with a young lady, but you know the right media
Right.
piece to. It's like, yo, picking the right song. It's like, yo, wildly I watch girls when they mad at their boyfriend quote song lyrics to like tell the world slash their boyfriend they're mad, although he never notices. But like that kind of shit, you know, it's like via media. There's a lot of communication that can happen, and it's a really cool idea, like a really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched. I'm sure you guys did watch the Grammys, right? Over on Sunday,
I
and
saw
that
the
was
film
kind of like
clip.
and that was like a theme that was coming out a lot. Is like artists and music and artistry. And John Baptiste made the point. He was like, "Yo, the shit touches people when at the time and at the point in their lives when they need it the most." You know what I'm saying? And he gave
Right.
kudos to everybody that he was fucking like nominated with, in terms of saying like, "Yo, I love all of y'all and all of y'all creativity, all of your creativity has definitely fucking like been in my playlist, and I've definitely rocked out, at various points in life, based on when I needed those things." You know what I'm saying? And so like, at the top, kind of, Holden, you were saying like, yo, music reaches you and gets to you, you know, where and it becomes like indelible, right? It forms indelible marks on your path and on your journey. And so like, yeah, like, so I guess you're right. Like I never looked at it like that, right? Like there's a deft touch kind of to imparting that and saying to my kids like, yo, I know where you at, like here it is, like this is, when you were doing that, and when I was feeling that like you're feeling right now, this is what I was looking at. And so it's a kind of dope little lesson too.
Big time. Um, how did you become the Dubbchivist? Because I feel like if we don't touch on that, that misses a huge point of the end of the week association we're here with.
For sure. um so i I've always been
You
a
went to
collector.
Okay.
Yeah, Flacco, you were saying?
you I was gonna say you went to high school with Pro, you said.
Yeah, so I went
So
to, so the yeah,
yeah, take it
the
from there.
fast the fast history on that, right? The fast history of my association with the dub is just that, right? Like I was in high school pro. Pro's been my best friend um since I was 94, 95. We graduated high school in 96. I go away to military school. Um, that's because of skirt chasing. I get sent to military school. I get sent to military school. I come home. One of the first times I come home from school, uh, I go check pro, and I was thinking about this because I've not, it's been a minute, and I haven't been able. For a long time, I wasn't really able to pinpoint like when I met Vice, right? But I realized that it had to be at like Hunter College, like at Central Park. You know what I'm saying? Like pro was going to Hunter, whatever. And so the arc and trajectory of like eye to eye um into the dub is kind of like my same arc and trajectory, right? Um, as far as becoming a dubcavist is concerned, I've always been a fucking collector of things, right? Of things that are nostalgic, right? And things, that for whatever reason I have an affinity for. Um, it starts with like pens and watches to sunglasses to like, like You know, like when we were coming up, most kids collected like coins and stamps and shit like that, right? Or like comic books and fucking trading cards and things like that. Like I was always on some like other shit, right? I was always collecting different things. So like, so ultimately, what happened is just like like things just for whatever reason, objects, mementos, just fucking strike, um, sentimental chords with me. You know what I'm saying? And so like I just, I would hang on to things for for various reasons, for their impact in my life, or just from a historical perspective. I think a lot of that has to do with kind of like my father, right? And my father, I mentioned was active in the community, but in large part he was he was a journalist, right? Who was kind of like on the scene, and like I said, they had a radio program, or maybe I didn't mention, but they also ran a radio program.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think that you mentioned that at all.
No.
I'm like, wait a minute, wait. You
yeah,
didn't
they,
even mention that your father was a reporter in any
yeah,
of
so yeah.
that.
So in association with the community center was a radio program, was a weekly
That
radio.
makes so much more sense for the WBAI shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah. That's
we
right. No,
interviewed Jay
honestly,
Smooth. We
uh,
interviewed Jay Smooth, who also worked at WBAI, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I mean?
yeah, bro. See. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like yeah, that's where like the exposure comes from, even to kids weren't listening to radio stations like that unless their parents were, what I'm saying, coming up. But so they ran a weekly radio program, which gave which provided news on Haiti and the current events in Haiti of the week. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of like why I would keep shit, and especially a lot of why I kept shit as it relates to EOW, is just for that documenting history perspective, right?
Mm.
Like these are flashes in time, right? They're snapshots, right? Like everything is a snapshot, right? Like if life if life is the culmination of all of your fucking moments and times and experiences, right? Then a journal of those things is exactly that, right? Like they say a photograph is worth 1,000 words, right? So from the very beginning, and even and as the dub was gaining like momentum, and we were inching closer and closer to kind of like achieving and reaching that that unofficial moniker as the longest running weekly open mic in New York City history, right? Like I've always had kind of just this eye for, you know, saving, like if I, in the early, right, like in the early days, if we were promoting something and we got like a stack of like 100 flyers each or whatever the case might be, right? To spray the city or whatever, and hand out and put in spots and on doors and whatever, and windshields and shit like that. Like I'd always be cognizant of hanging on to like 5 or 10 of them. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
nah,
Like,
like I did street teaming as well,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So like
right.
in the middle of the era, right? And so like I wish I would have like had the like I always look back at all because I was a New Yorker, same as the rest of y'all, right?
Right,
So like
right.
I'm there getting Voltrons when they're die cast metal, you know what I mean? Getting G.I. Joes and having fucking Ken Griffey rookie cards because why? Because you're just that age. So you're collecting the cards of that
You
era.
just
You
right,
know what I
right,
mean? So
right,
like you
right.
end up with all these things that you don't even realize later on are like grossly valuable that you're just like,
Yeah,
man, I threw that shit
yeah.
away. Like
Yo, like, for me, it's been like all things, like, right. I had this like ultimate dream in my head, right, to live in a home that is a sort of like hip hop retrospective, right? And by that I like and by that I just mean like off of the shit that I've just collected in my life. Like you know, it's been my nature for most of my life to be a collector and to fucking feel sentimentality to, you know, attach to certain things, right? And you know, originally it started out as like some hip hop, you know, it just started out as some collector shit, but it turned into like some hip hop shit. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously hip hop is the most impactful and fucking largest musical genre of the modern age, right?
Hmm.
Um,
The
so
music
like
of an
you
era.
know, yeah, for sure. So like I
Rock and roll
have
was the last music of an era.
right, exactly, yo, and again, like you know, hip hop. You know, I come from the school where my parents hated hip hop, you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting because
Yeah,
it's just,
me,
you know,
mine too.
it's just cycles repeating themselves, right? But
Mhm.
you know, I got things in my archives that have nothing to do with the dub, you know what I'm saying? Like I got things in my archives like Apache fucking Indian you know, stickers, album stickers. I got like Grave Diggers fucking, you know, promo materials, you know what I'm saying? Like and that's tremendously hip hop, like monumental hip hop, right? Prince
Yeah,
Paul, fucking RZA, and fucking uh uh fuck, I'm, you know, it's escaping me right now. You know what I'm saying? But like I got all these things. Like I don't know if you ever fucking went to the dojo, Flacco, right? But
in
back
Manhattan before I went to Jersey,
no, no,
or was that
the
no
dojo
in
in
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
Right,
Yes,
down
you were
down by the
in
piers, no, or
yes, exactly, down in Dumbo. So if you ever been there, if you ever
yeah,
reported in there, you probably remember the fucking Jam Master J, you know the Jam
hmm,
Master J poster, the Memorial Jam Master J
yes,
poster. That
yes, I
belongs to
do.
me. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Word,
was working at Adidas and they did a fucking Memorial JMJ sneaker, you know what I'm saying? And that was a fucking promo piece and it was gonna go in the garbage. And I was like, yo, like I need that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's fucking
that's dope.
monumental fucking hip hop history. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, you know, so it's just been like things like that, like flashpoints, you know what I'm saying? And so like the
Did you just
Dubbchivist,
like flex that you're the supplier, like in a high art kind of sense, of a piece of culture to a recording studio?
yeah, yeah,
I mean the Dubs recording studio, yeah, you know.
yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
fire.